So today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the process that my wife and I have been doing. Primarily Isabel, she's been the one doing this more than I have, but pointing our joints in the house. So we have decided to leave the stone walls natural. I'll show you what it looks like inside. But we are pointing all of the joints. We've cleaned out all the joints of the stone. We sandblasted the stone. There was a significant amount of plaster on all the walls, probably hundreds of years worth of plaster on the walls. It's a construction zone right now, lots going on. Here is the main open area. And the kitchen area here, the kitchen wall. The kitchen is going to be in the center of the room. Here is an area where Isabel did earlier on. You can see how the walls joints have been pointed in this area. Up here, it's not, right? So this is the final look, how things are going to look. And this is the walls after having been prepared, sandblasted. Right now, we're working in one of the bedrooms. We are trying to do everything that is up above. So on the sort of call it upper level, that needs scaffolding since we're still on the concrete floor. We've done pointing where the wall joints are. We've started doing the upper areas, you can see there, around. And then here's the latest area that has not yet been brushed. So one of the most important parts of doing the pointing for the look is brushing it. You can see, I'll zoom in a little bit closer. It looks rough, which is normal after we've done the troweling and pushing it into the joints. And then once it gets, I'll say brushed, it has a different look. So like this, you can see brushed. This is still quite new. It takes a long time to dry. We have some areas, I'll show you some areas in another room that we did months and months ago. And it's still slowly changing colors. So in this bedroom, you can see this bottom part was done a long time ago, whereas the upper part, it's still a bit grayer, was done more recently. It takes weeks and weeks for the colors to match and then for it to dry out. So like I was saying, we're pointing the walls. Some areas we're actually doing outside, but we're going to leave the outdoors area for later as we have a lot to do inside. One of the hardest things was to decide what the ingredients were going to be for this pointing technique. When we started asking around, we started getting a lot of different perspectives and different answers as to what it should be, how we should mix the ingredients. A lot of people said you need to put cement. A lot of people said you should not put cement. They said your walls need to breathe, therefore cement is non-breathable, and therefore you should find a mix without cement. We started looking at different premixes that existed for lime mortar. A lot of them had cement. A lot of them we weren't sure what was inside of them. And the more and more we talked and asked, including some colleagues at work that apparently studied this stuff and showed us that the Romans back in the day used to mix a lime powder, a powder called volcanic ash, so actual volcanic ash, with sand and salt water. And that was the preferred recipe. So we started playing around with that. We tried powdered lime. You do this research, you find all these different types of lime, hydraulic lime. There are these ratings that are really hard to understand. Everybody had different opinions about it. But ultimately, one of the people we spoke to who did this in his house recently said, no, just go to the store and get this puttied lime that's already liquid, made in Italy. And it's already sort of pasty enough, so you don't have to add water. Apparently, when you use dry lime, you have to mix it for a very long time, and the water and the lime has to have a reaction for it to be ready to go. And so they said, just use this putty lime. Here, I'll show you the bag. This is lime putty. So as you can see, really liquidy, really wet. And since then, we've been using that as our base for our mixture. So then came the discussion about this so-called volcanic ash. And a good thing, a colleague of mine here in the Vipava area had a contact of a mine in Slovenia that mined the volcanic ash. And then Isabel here went and took a trip up to, where was it? Northern?
Near Celje.
Near Celje, a mine where she arrived, asked them, called up front and said, do you guys sell this volcanic ash? And they said, sure. And this is the bag. There's no markings on it. And as you can see, it is this fine, 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 fine powder. And so we started using it and started trying it. And it so far seems to work. And this is what some of the people that knew this stuff said. Do not use cement because cement doesn't breathe. Add a powder, add this volcanic ash, which when you touch it, it actually feels a little bit like pure cement powder, not a concrete or a mixture that already has aggregate, but just the cement powder. That's what it feels like. We talked about the lime, talked about the volcanic ash. Then came the sand. You think, oh, sand, easy. Easiest part of the ingredients. Well, not so easy. There's fine sand, medium sand, big sand, white sand, gray sand, brown sand. How is the color going to come out? How's the texture going to come out? So we started doing tests. We started combining small brown with big white and this different types. A lot of people online, different things we saw, talked you need about a 0 to 4 millimeter grade sand, meaning you need fine sand for the mortar to really thicken, and then you need some bigger call it, I don't know, stone pieces or rock pieces or sand pieces that make it so that the shrinkage isn't too intense and it doesn't crack, so that it makes it more structural. So we tried different types of mixtures, some big, some small, and then ultimately we just simplified. The colors changed a lot while it was drying. We wanted something more beige and less gray, and so we just ended up using this sand from the local hardware store. It's a 0 to 4 millimeter grade construction sand made for mortar, and as you can see, very brown in color. Okay, and you've got some larger aggregate inside, some fine, and in the end, we like the color. The mixture is easy to work with, so we just stuck with that type of sand. Yeah. And then it started to talk about, okay, what is the quantity mixture? We'll get to that in a minute. Ingredients, we have sand, 0 to 4 millimeter, construction grade. We use more of a brown. We've got our puttied, wet lime, and our very dry, very fine volcanic ash that we buy here in Slovenia. Then came the dilemma of the quantities.
So I use this little bucket. I put 3 parts of sand. I put it to the top. I put that in the bucket. After I have my 3 part, I put 1 part of this volcanic ash, put in the bucket, mix, 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 mix. When it's all mixed, then I pour 1 part of lime, flush, and then that's 1 recipe.
1 quantity or 1 batch. We call
One
it
batch.
a batch. Yeah, so the texture varies significantly based off of how much lime, wet lime, you put in compared to how much sand and volcanic ash you had. We always were told volcanic ash to lime would be 1 to 1, but then the sand varied from 2 to 1 to lime, 3 to 1, 4 to 1,
Even 5 to
5 to 1, multiple different quantities and mixtures. Then we started talking about the application method. I might show you later, but we got cake bags, squeeze it with our hands, these caulking guns where you fill up the gun and you squeeze it by hand, a drill based one where you try to push it through a drill, And ultimately, I'll jump to the conclusion, all of those types of mechanical application methods required a very, very milky mixture to work. So like a 1-to-1 lime to sand. And like I said before, it made the rocks super wet. It was very dirty. It starts dripping everywhere. It was not, you couldn't move it around with your trowel. And so the very, very wet mixture, and then it started cracking a lot when it would dry, was really not what we wanted. We wanted a drier mixture. But then the drier mixture cannot be used. We tried everything with the dry mixtures, with the caulking guns, the cake bags, and the mechanical drill method. There's an air bubble, it gets locked up, and boom, you're done. And you spend more time trying to redo and clean and open up and put more, and you spend so much time just dealing with your method. So in the end, the recipe that we have liked the most, the one we just made now, is 1 part lime, 1 part volcanic ash, and 3 part sand.